Welcome to the world of science fiction and forgotten worlds. Alien Universe. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and never miss a new movies and story from this channel. No one should survive in the void, not for long. Space is silent, merciless, and colder than death itself. Yet on that dark and endless night, something impossible appeared on Commander Elias Cad's scanners. At first, it looked like a glitch, just a faint flicker drifting beyond the station's outer sensors. Elias almost ignored it. Strange signals happened all the time near the quiet zone, but this signal was different. It moved slowly, weakly, like something struggling to stay alive. Elias leaned closer to the screen and rubbed his tired eyes. "AI, zoom in," he said quietly. The station's artificial intelligence responded instantly. Zooming. Thermal signature detected. Life signs extremely weak. Elias froze. Life signs? Out here? The screen sharpened, and the dark void revealed a tiny shape drifting through. Space. It was small, fragile, and spinning slowly in the endless black. A thin emergency blanket wrapped around the body, barely protecting it from the brutal cold of space. Frost covered the helmet visor, and the oxygen meter blinking beside. The image was almost empty. Then the AI spoke again, its voice calm but urgent. Biological estimate. Juvenile. Species unknown. Body temperature dropping rapidly. Estimated survival time, less than 3 minutes. Elias felt a heavy knot tighten in his chest. A child. Out here, alone. For a moment, he could not move. The quiet zone was under strict quarantine law. Every captain in the galaxy knew the rule. No contact, no rescue, no interference. The area was considered biologically dangerous after a disaster decades ago. If anyone broke that rule, the punishment was severe. Ships were confiscated, careers destroyed, and sometimes people simply disappeared into the system's prisons. Elias knew all of that. He had signed the law himself when he accepted command of the small monitoring station. His job was simple: watch the zone and report anything unusual. Nothing more. But the small body on the screen was not just unusual. It was dying. "Run the scan again," Elias said quietly. "Scan complete," the AI replied. "Heart rhythm unstable. Oxygen nearly depleted. Death likely within 2 minutes." 2 minutes. Elias stared at the drifting figure. Something inside him refused to accept what he was hearing. Someone had thrown that child into the void. Someone had left her there to freeze and fade into nothing. His fingers hovered above the alert panel. If he pressed the red button, the station would send a report to galactic compliance. Patrol ships would be notified. A rescue decision would eventually be made. Eventually. But eventually was useless when a child had 2 minutes left to live. Elias leaned closer to the screen. Through the frost on the helmet visor, he finally saw the child's face. Her skin was a pale blue-gray color, not human at all. Her eyes were large and dark, barely open. She looked weak, exhausted, and terrified. Her small hands pressed weakly against the inside of the visor, as if she were trying to push the cold away. Then her body shivered once and went still. The AI's voice broke the silence. Cardiac activity fading. Elias felt a sudden rush of anger and fear mixed together. "No," he whispered. The AI responded calmly. "Commander, quarantine protocol requires no physical retrieval. Recommended action: record the event and notify the compliance board." Elias slowly stood up from his chair. His eyes never left the screen. I, he asked quietly. "How long until she dies?" "Approximately 90 seconds. 90 seconds. Not enough time for permission. Not enough time for discussion. Not enough time for the galaxy's rules." Elias took a deep breath and looked toward the airlock at the end of the station corridor. He knew exactly what the law said. He knew exactly what would happen if he ignored it. But right now, the law was asking him to watch a child die. His jaw tightened. "Prepare the HFY sled," he ordered. The AI responded immediately. "Command denied. Retrieval violates quarantine restrictions." Elias did not argue. He simply walked toward the emergency locker on the wall and opened it. Inside were older tools, manual controls that the station rarely used anymore. Equipment designed by humans long before the galaxy created its endless rules. He grabbed the manual sled controller and strapped it to his wrist. The AI spoke again, a little louder this time. "Commander Cade, if you proceed, an automatic violation report will be sent to galactic compliance." Elias glanced once more at the screen. The tiny alien child drifted slowly in the darkness, her body almost completely still. Benny looked back at the airlock. "Send the report," he said quietly, and he began to run. Commander Elias Cade ran through the narrow station corridor, his boots echoing loudly against the metal floor. The red emergency lights flickered as he passed, reflecting off the cold walls. He did not slow down. Every second mattered now. Somewhere outside the station, a small alien child was drifting closer to death, and the galaxy's rules were trying to stop him from helping her. The station AI continued speaking as he moved. Its voice remained calm, but the warnings were growing more serious. "Commander Cade, quarantine violation confirmed. Automatic report has been transmitted to galactic compliance. You are strongly advised to stop." Elias didn't answer. He reached the airlock control panel and slammed his hand against it. The heavy doors hissed as the system activated. "Manual HFY preparation initiated," the AI said. "Warning. External temperature, -180 degrees. Survival time outside recommended limits, 4 minutes. 4 minutes." Elias quickly pulled on the thick emergency suit stored beside the airlock. It was older equipment, designed for short repairs outside the station. The suit was not meant for long exposure, but it would keep him alive long enough to reach the drifting child. If he moved fast. His hands worked quickly, sealing the gloves and locking the helmet into place. The oxygen system activated with a quiet hiss. "Commander," the AI said again, "the object you are attempting to retrieve is an unknown biological species. Contact may introduce contamination to the station." Elias finally answered. His voice sounded steady, but inside he felt the pressure of every decision closing around him. "She's a child," he said simply. "Biological classification does not change the quarantine law." Elias stared at the outer door of the airlock as it slowly opened to the black emptiness beyond. Stars burned in the distance, silent and cold. "Maybe the law is wrong," he replied. The moment the outer door finished opening, the vacuum pulled at him like an invisible tide. Elias grabbed the HFY sled and pushed himself forward into space. The small propulsion unit activated with a quiet burst, sending him gliding away from the station. The cold hit instantly. Even through the suit's insulation, it felt like invisible knives pressing against his body. "Target distance, 60 meters, the AI reported through his helmet speaker. "Child's vital signs critical." Elias focused on the tiny drifting figure ahead of him. She was barely visible against the darkness, just a faint silver shape wrapped in torn emergency foil. "Hold on," he whispered, though he knew she could not hear him. The sled pushed forward faster. 50 meters, 40 meters. Then something changed on the scanner. "Commander," the AI said sharply. "Unidentified vessel detected entering the sector." Elias frowned. "What?" A new signal flashed across his helmet display. A ship was approaching fast, dropping out of hyperspace. Just beyond the quiet zone, the AI continued its report. Ship identification, unknown. Energy output suggests combat capability. Elias felt a sudden chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. Whoever had thrown that child into space might be coming back. Estimated arrival, 3 minutes, the AI warned. Elias looked ahead again. The alien child drifted only. 20 meters away now, her body completely still. Frost covered her visor, and the oxygen indicator on his screen blinked red. She had almost nothing left. Forget the ship, Elias muttered. Just keep tracking her. He pushed the sled harder. 10 meters, 5 meters. Finally, he reached out with the magnetic clamp attached to the sled and carefully hooked it onto the small suit wrapped around the child's body. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the clamp locked. Elias pulled her closer, his gloved hands trembling slightly as he grabbed her small shoulders. She weighed almost nothing. Her body was stiff with cold, and her head tilted weakly to the side. Through the cracked visor, he could see her face clearly now. Her eyes were closed. AI, Elias said quickly. Is she still alive? There was a brief pause. Then the answer came. Heart activity extremely weak, but present. Elias exhaled slowly. Relief washed over him for just a second. Then the scanner beeped again. The approaching ship had entered visual range. A dark, angular vessel drifted toward them like a predator moving through the stars. And it was getting closer. The dark ship grew larger against the stars, moving slowly, but with terrifying certainty. Its shape was sharp and angular, nothing like a civilian transport. Elias knew that design. He had seen ships like that before in distant war zones and forgotten borders. They were not rescue ships. They were hunters. Inside his helmet, the warning alarm began to blink. Commander Cade, the AI said urgently, unknown vessel has locked a scanning beam onto your position. Elias tightened his grip on the tiny alien child. Her small body was still stiff from the cold, barely moving in his arms. Frost covered parts of her suit, and the cracked visor showed a pale, lifeless face. AI, he said quickly. Is she still alive? Cardiac rhythm extremely faint, the AI replied. Immediate medical attention required. Elias looked toward the station floating behind him. It suddenly felt very far away. Distance to airlock? He asked. 42 meters. That should have been easy. Normally, a short glide. Back to the station would take less than 30 seconds. But now the dark ship was only a few hundred meters away. A beam of harsh white light suddenly cut across the darkness and swept over him. Elias froze. The light locked onto his position instantly. Commander, the AI warned, the vessel is performing a biological scan. Elias felt his pulse jump. Whoever was inside that ship would see 2 life signs drifting in the void. 1 human, 1 unknown alien child. The light intensified. Then a deep mechanical voice echoed through his helmet's communication channel. Unregistered human vessel. Release the specimen immediately. Elias frowned. Specimen? The voice continued, cold and emotionless. That organism belongs to the Dominion Research Authority. Return it, and you will not be harmed. Elias stared at the unconscious child in his arms. The words echoed in his head. Specimen, not child. Not survivor, just an object. Something inside him burned with quiet anger. Negative, Elias replied calmly. For a moment, there was silence. Then the voice returned, sharper now. You are interfering with authorized biological research. Return the specimen or your station will be destroyed. Elias almost laughed. Destroyed? Over a child? But deep down, he knew they were serious. Ships like that didn't make empty threats. Commander, the AI whispered through the helmet, Their weapon systems are charging. Elias glanced back at the station again. If they fired, the small monitoring station wouldn't survive more than one shot. His jaw tightened. "You said the child's heart is still beating?" he asked the AI. "Yes. However, survival probability continues to drop." "Then we don't have time for this." He activated the sled's propulsion again and pushed toward the station. Instantly, the hostile ship responded. A warning blast flashed through space, a bright line of energy cutting across his path. The beam missed him by only a few meters, but the message was clear. "Stop moving." The voice returned through the com channel. "Final warning, human. Surrender the specimen." Elias looked down at the small figure in his arms. Her breathing was shallow, barely visible through the cracked visor. Ice crystals floated around her helmet like tiny stars. Someone had thrown her away. Someone had called her a specimen. And now they wanted her back. Elias felt something very human rise inside his chest. Aye, he said quietly. "Yes, Commander?" "Open the airlock." Airlock opening. The station doors began to unlock. The hostile ship reacted immediately. "Human vessel, cease movement." Elias ignored them. 30 meters. 20 meters. Another warning beam flashed across space, closer this time. The heat from the blast briefly warmed his suit sensors. "Commander," the AI said carefully, "they will fire again." Elias nodded slightly. "Probably 10 meters. The airlock. Door was fully open now. Behind him, the hostile ship's weapon system began glowing brighter. "AI," Elias said calmly. "Once we're inside, seal the station." "Understood. 5 meters. The enemy ship fired. A brilliant beam of energy tore through the darkness straight toward him. And for a terrifying moment, Elias knew he might not reach the airlock in time. The beam of energy flashed past Elias with terrifying speed. For one frozen moment, the bright light filled the darkness around him. The blast missed his body by only a few meters and slammed into the outer shell of the station. Metal shook violently, and sparks burst into space like tiny fireworks. "Impact detected," the AI announced. "Outer hull damage minor." But Elias didn't look back. He pushed the sled harder, his arms wrapped tightly around the small alien child. The airlock entrance was only a few meters away now. The station lights glowed like a small island of warmth in the endless dark. 3 meters. 2 meters. The sled slid through the airlock door just as another energy blast streaked past the entrance. "Airlock closing," the AI said. The heavy door slammed shut behind him with a deep metallic thud. Instantly, the chamber filled with air again, and gravity slowly returned beneath his boots. Elias dropped to his knees. The tiny alien child lay in his arms, completely still. "Medical scan," he said quickly. Soft blue light passed over the small body. "Body temperature critical," the AI replied. "Heart activity extremely weak. Immediate warming required." Elias carefully removed the cracked helmet from the child's head. Cold air rushed out as frost melted across the glass. For the Jing. First time, he saw her clearly. She looked even smaller than he expected. Her skin had a soft blue-gray color, and thin glowing patterns ran faintly across her cheeks, like tiny lines of light under the skin. Her large dark eyes were closed, and her breathing was shallow. "She's freezing," Elias muttered. He quickly wrapped her in a thermal blanket and carried her toward the small medical pod beside the airlock. Behind him, the station shook again. "Warning," the AI said. "Hostile vessel remains outside. Weapon systems charging." Elias gently placed the child into the warming chamber. The machine began pumping heated oxygen into the pod. "Come on, stay with me," he whispered. For several long seconds, nothing happened Then the monitor beeped softly. Heart rhythm stabilizing, the AI reported. Relief washed over Elias, but it lasted only a moment, because suddenly the child's eyes opened. They were not black like he first thought. In the light of the medical pod, they glowed faintly with deep violet color, and they were staring directly at him. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then something impossible happened. A voice appeared inside Elias's mind, not through the speakers, not through the radio. Inside his thoughts, you are human. Elias froze. The child hadn't spoken aloud. Her lips never moved. But the voice was clear, soft, weak, frightened. You helped me. Elias slowly stepped closer to the medical pod. Did you just speak? He asked quietly. The child's eyes blinked slowly. Again, the voice filled his mind. They were hunting me. Elias felt a strange chill run down his spine. Outside the station, the hostile ship fired another warning. Shot. The station trembled again, but Elias barely noticed. Who are they? He asked. The small alien child looked toward the ceiling, as if she could see through the metal walls of the station and into the dark space beyond. Her thoughts entered his mind again. They are afraid of me? Elias frowned. Afraid? Why? The child looked back at him. For a moment, the faint glowing lines on her skin became brighter, and then she answered, Because I am not a child. Elias felt the room suddenly become very quiet. What do you mean? He whispered. The alien's eyes glowed softly. I am the last mind of my species. Elias stared at her. The voice in his mind continued, calm but heavy with meaning. Every memory, every voice, every history. A pause. Then the truth finally reached him. The Dominion ship outside wasn't chasing a lost child. They were hunting something far more valuable. Something powerful. Something that carried the entire knowledge of an extinct civilization. And Elias had just saved her. The station trembled again as another blast struck its outer hull. Warning lights flashed across the corridor, and the low alarm sound echoed through the metal walls. Outside, the Dominion ship waited like a patient predator circling its prey. Inside the small medical room, however, everything felt strangely quiet. Commander Elias Cade stood beside the warming chamber, staring at the alien child. Her breathing had grown steadier, and the faint glowing lines across her skin were brighter now, moving slowly like living patterns of light. You carry your entire species? Elias asked quietly. The child's violet eyes looked directly into his. Her voice again appeared inside his mind, gentle but heavy with age. Yes. Images suddenly flashed across Elias's thoughts. Huge alien cities built from crystal towers. Oceans glowing under strange suns. Vast libraries floating in orbit around a distant planet. Billions of voices speaking, learning, dreaming. Then the images shattered like broken glass. Dark warships. Fire in the sky. Planets burning. The child's voice trembled. They destroyed us. Elias felt the weight of the memories pressing against his mind. Before my world fell, our elders placed every memory, every mind inside me, she continued. I was sent away, hidden, protected. Another explosion rocked the station. Commander, the AI said urgently. Hostile vessel charging primary weapon. Estimated station destruction in 60 seconds. Elias slowly looked up toward the ceiling. 60 seconds. That was all. Outside the station, the Dominion ship finally opened a direct communication channel. The cold mechanical voice returned. Human Commander, this is your final warning. Surrender the specimen immediately. Failure to comply will result in total destruction. Elias glanced back at the alien child. Specimen, The word sounded even worse now. AI, Elias said calmly. How long until our distress signal reaches the nearest patrol fleet? Approximately 12 minutes. 12 minutes was forever. The voice from the Dominion ship spoke again. Human, your species is not authorized to possess this biological archive. Return it. Elias folded his arms and leaned against the medical pod. You keep calling her a specimen, he said quietly, but I see something different. Silence filled the channel for a moment, then the voice replied, What you see is irrelevant. Elias smiled slightly. Yeah, humans hear that a lot. The alien child looked up at him. Her thoughts brushed gently against his mind. You will die if you protect me. Elias shrugged. Maybe, he said. Outside, the Dominion ship's weapon glowed brighter. Energy gathered at the front of the massive cannon. The AI spoke again. 30 seconds until enemy fire. Elias turned toward the command console. AI, transfer all station power to forward shields. Commander, the shields will only survive one direct hit. Good, Elias said. That's all we need. The alien child watched him carefully. Why would you do this? Her voice asked softly inside his mind. Elias looked back at her. For the same reason humans always break the rules. He paused, because sometimes the rules are wrong. The Dominion ship fired. A massive beam of white energy tore through space toward the station. The shields flared to life just in time. The blast slammed into them with a blinding explosion of light. The entire station shook violently, metal screaming under the pressure. Shields holding, the AI reported, but only barely. The Dominion ship began charging another shot. Then suddenly a new alarm sounded. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected, the AI announced. Bright flashes appeared across the dark sky outside the station windows. 1 ship, then 3, then 10. A full patrol fleet dropped out of hyperspace, surrounding the Dominion vessel in seconds. The hostile ship immediately shut down its weapons. A calm new voice filled the communication channel. Dominion vessel, this is Galactic Patrol. Command, power down your weapons and prepare for inspection. Inside the station, Elias finally exhaled. The alien child looked at him again, her glowing eyes filled with quiet wonder. You saved me. Elias shook his head. No, he said softly. Then he glanced out the window toward the arriving fleet. I think humanity just saved your entire civilization. The child closed her eyes, and the glowing patterns on her skin pulsed gently like distant stars. And for the first time since her world had fallen, she felt hope.